Rocket League is built on one simple rule. Every car is basically the same. Same top speed, same boost speed, same acceleration. The hitbox differences are so tiny that switching barely changes anything. That's why the game feels fair and consistent. Except when you get a Gold 2 teammate in Champ, then the game is trash. But normally, when something goes wrong, it's your mistake, not your car. But imagine a version of Rocket League where cars actually had real stats. Picture every car in the game, or even just 5 or 10 of them, each with its own acceleration, weight, handling, top speed, or even extra boost. It sounds like a small change, but something that tiny would completely reshape the game. At first, it actually sounds sick. Instead of a bunch of cars that all feel almost the same, every car would have an identity. You'd have a heavy tank car that wins 50-50s but has less speed, a lightweight car with sharp turning but weaker 50s, or a fast offensive car with crazy acceleration but a slower top speed. Suddenly, picking your car becomes an actual strategy. It starts feeling more like a real sport, where the cars your team chooses actually matter. You could pair a tank in defense with a fast striker upfield. You'd see new styles, new matchups, and new metas. Ranked would feel fresh because not everyone would be using an Octane or Fennec, and content would get a huge boost because car choice would finally matter. You'd also get entirely new discussions in the community, people arguing over the best lineup, tier lists for every car class, and even specific roles like defenders, playmakers, and scorers. And suddenly, pros might not all run the exact same car. You'd have teams with actual frontline players and defensive anchors built around the strengths of the cars they pick. But once you think about it more, the problems start popping up. Rocket League is built on pure skill. The second cars have real pros and cons. Players stop losing because of bad decisions, and start losing because their car beats mine. People would stop blaming their teammates and start blaming the stat bars. Your car wins more 50s, you only save that because of faster top speed, and so on. The focus shifts from mistakes to what car you're using, and switching to a new meta car becomes a nightmare for most players. A lot of people have years of muscle memory locked into one hitbox. Every touch, every recovery, every air roll comes from that one car. Changing stats means relearning the game over and over again. And here's something people don't think about. Muscle memory doesn't reset cleanly. If you switch cars too often, you start mixing up the timing of your touches, your turning radius, your jump height, everything. Players who were once consistent suddenly feel sloppy, not because they're worse, but because the car is different. Cosmetics become another huge problem. What if you love how a certain car looks, but the stats under it are terrible? One of Rocket League's biggest strengths is that you can use whatever you think looks cool without being punished. That disappears the moment cosmetics are tied to performance, and sponsors would hate it too. Porsche, Nissan, BMW, none of them want their car labeled slow, heavy, or bad. Psyonix would be stuck trying to balance gameplay while keeping brands happy, and once cars have stats, players start questioning everything. People would argue about whether wheels affect turning, whether toppers add weight, or whether decals change the way your car moves. Even if it's all fake, players will believe it anyway. It creates excuses for everything. Even limiting the game to 10 stat cars still creates huge problems. The physics engine has been built for years around everything being the same. Now it suddenly has to deal with different weights, turning speeds, friction, boost usage, and collision differences. Even tiny differences create huge ripple effects through aerials, dribbles, 50-50s, recoveries, and ball control. Even if the cars were balanced perfectly, the game becomes way less predictable, because Rocket League's physics are super sensitive. On top of that, think about patches. Right now, Psyonix barely touches the balance, and the game stays stable for months. But with stat-based cars, every update becomes a huge deal. A small buff to turning speed or a slight nerf to acceleration could flip the entire meta. Players would constantly feel pressured to change cars just to keep up, and even if Epic somehow avoids broken metas, avoids pay to win, keeps sponsors happy, and keeps things balanced, the game still changes completely. Rocket League becomes complicated in all the wrong ways. Instead of focusing on mechanics and smart plays, players start thinking about matchups and whether their car is the right one. A lot of players would never switch cars again because relearning mechanics would take too long. The simple, clean design that makes Rocket League great is gone. New players get hit the hardest. Right now, everyone learns the same physics. With stat cars, beginners learn totally different habits depending on what they pick first. Heavy cars teach slow turning, lightweight cars teach oversteering. Some cars make learning easier, others make it harder. Your long-term skill ends up depending on what car you started with, not how much time you put in. And think about coaching, tutorials, and training packs. All the advice becomes car specific. They all change depending on what car someone is using. The learning resources that already exist become outdated instantly. The mental side of the game also gets worse. Rocket League already tilts people because mistakes are obvious. Add stat matchups to that, and now every loss has a built-in excuse. Players tilt faster, trust the game less, and blame their car instead of their decisions. The game feels less fair, and frustration rises across every rank. And queue times could even change. If certain cars become dominant, lower-ranked players might avoid queuing because they feel outclassed. Higher-ranked players would feel forced into specific cars just to keep up. You'd get mirror matchups constantly, which defeats the whole point of adding variety in the first place. So what would Rocket League look like if cars had real stats? It would add variety, new strategies, and new ways to play, but it would also break consistency, ruin cosmetics, wreck muscle memory, mess with learning, increase excuses, upset sponsors, and pull the focus away from pure skill. Rocket League works because everyone uses the same tools. If that changes, even if it's balanced and fair, it's not Rocket League anymore. It becomes a different game, and that's probably why this idea should stay a what if instead of an update.